Ready? Okay, let's start then. Say hello, stingrays.
Hello, stingrays.
Today, we
we
are going to divide decimals. Say divide decimals.
Decimals.
Very good. Say bye.
Bye.
Stingrays, I hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. And right now we need to divide some decimals. And the way we do that is, for the most part, we treat it pretty much like a long division problem. Okay, so we're going to take 12.3 divided by 0.03, or 12 and 3/10 divided by 3/100. We need to take our dividend here, which is 12.3, and that goes on the inside of our division bar, and then 3/100 0.03 goes out here. So our divisor is here, our dividends on the inside. Nothing has changed there. But the problem we have here is, what we really have is, we have a division problem divided by a division problem. Because when we think about 3/100, what's 3/100? Well, 3/100 is a fraction, and every fraction is really a division problem. And over here we have 12.3, which is really 12 and 3/10, which is a mixed number, and the fraction part of the mixed number is also a division problem. So what we have to do is, we have to simplify this a little bit, and we're going to take our 3/100 and we're going to change it to a whole number. And the way we do that is, if we take 3/100 and multiply it by 100, what do we get? Well, we know 0 times 3 is 0, okay, and that's going to be 0 all the way across the board, 0 times 0. Then we put a 0 here as our placeholder. 0 times 3 is still a 0, and 0 times 0 is still a 0. And now we go out here to the hundreds place, so we put 2 zeros as our placeholder, and 1 times 3 is 3. Okay, and 1 times 0 is 0. We don't need to put that 0 there. When we add everything up, we get 300. And if you remember from multiplying decimals, well, how many decimal places do I have here? I have 1, 2. And how many decimal places do I have here? I have none. So altogether, I have how many decimal places? 2. So I need to go 1, 2 over, and my decimal point's right there. So we took 3/100 and multiplied it by 100 to get 3. So we're going to put our decimal place right there. Another way is, just remember, if I'm going to bump this decimal place, this decimal point 1, 2 places over. But whatever I do to the divisor, I must also do to the dividend. So if I bump this decimal place over 2 places to the right, which is really multiplying it by 100, I need to do the same thing to my dividend. I need to bump it over 1, 2, or multiply it by 100. And my decimal point goes there, and I fill this empty place in with a 0. That's my placeholder. Okay, now I can divide, but before I even start dividing, I should put my decimal point right up there to keep track of things and keep that lined up. That's very important. And now I can ask myself, okay, 3 goes into 1. It doesn't. 3 goes into 12. How many times? 4. 4 times 3 is 12. I subtract. I get 0. I bring down my next number, which is a 3. 3 goes into 3. How many times? Once. 1 times 3 is 3. I subtract. I get 0 as my remainder. And then I bring down my next 0. 3 goes into a 0 how many times? 0 times. 0 times 3 is 0. I subtract that. That's a 0, not a 6. And I have a remainder of 0. I am done. So my answer is 410. And if you don't believe me, multiply 410 times 3/100, and you're going to get 12.3 as your answer. You can always go back and check this, okay? But what I really did was, I just took this divisor, which was a decimal, I changed it to a whole number by multiplying it by 100, and then I multiplied the 12.3 also by 100, because whatever I do to the divisor, I must also do to the dividend if I'm going to keep it an equivalent division problem or an equivalent fraction. Okay, what we're really doing is setting up a ratio, and we'll talk more about that later. Let's take a look at another problem. Here we have 732 divided by 1.2. Well, I'm going to set it up as a long division problem. I'm going to put my dividend inside my division bar here, and I'm going to place 1.2 out here. That's my divisor. Now remember, I don't want to have any decimal, even a mixed number here in my divisor. So how do I get rid of this decimal point in a sense, or how do I move it over to make 1.2 a whole number? Well, I'm just going to kick it over one place to the right, which is really multiplying this by 10. And someone might say, well, okay, I need to do the same thing here, but there is no decimal point. Well, technically there's not, but we know that we can change any whole number into a decimal by just adding a decimal point after the whole number. So if the decimal point's here and I kick it over one place to the right, which I'm really multiplying it by what? By 10. Okay, the decimal point is now there. I multiplied my divisor by 10. I multiplied my dividend by 10. I moved my decimal point over to the right one place. I moved my decimal point here over to the right one place as well. And then I'm going to put my decimal point up there. Okay, 12 goes into 73 how many times? Well, I'm going to guess 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12. So put my 2 there. Carry the 1. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 1 is 7. Okay, good guess. Okay, then I subtract and I get 1 as my leftover remainder. Then I need to bring down my 2, my next number 2. 12 goes into 12 how many times? Once. 1 times 12 is 12. And that 0 is remainder. Then I need to bring down my next digit, which is a 0. 12 goes into 0 how many times? 0. 0 times 12 is 0. I subtract 0 from 0 and I get 0. No remainder. I'm done. Okay, so my answer is 610. Once again, you can go back and check it. Take 610, multiply it by 1.2, and your answer will be 732. So you can always check your work. But the key thing to remember here is our divisor, if it is a decimal, okay, we need to change it to a whole number by moving the decimal point to the right as many place values as needed. And how many place values you move your decimal point to the right with the divisor, you must do the same thing with the dividend. See, here I moved my decimal point over 1, 2 places, and over here I need to move it over 1, 2 places. Here I just moved it over 1 place, and here I moved this over here 1 place in the dividend as well. Let's practice some problems together.